Good afternoon, family. This is your brother Jamala, also known as Brother Soldier 4D, coming at you again just to rap to you on a reel, just to kind of break bread and not necessarily have anything targeted toward a lesson, but just kind of talking about some of the things that have been going on in society and some of the ways that uh, we're challenged to to make decisions about where we stand, what we're going to believe, and what we're going to uphold. But in the different topics that I've been sharing on this new channel that we're here on called Panafricentric Ministries, I try to break the kind of bread that's going to be enlightening, encouraging, informative, even correcting, reproving when necessary. Um, the whole point of making a channel like this is because I've been in so many different experiences and organizations where you want to do things to uplift your people, uplift uh, our Black Africans in the struggle, but you'll see that a lot of times, a lot of the fellowship you have with these brothers, they don't share the same faith as you. Like if you have a commitment towards Christ, you see one brother over here, you know, we want to do things to correct things in the society together, but you have one brother over here that may be a Satan worshiper and you trying to worship God. Or you may see one that doesn't believe at all. Um, and I'm not saying it's necessary for us to believe everything exactly the same in order to serve our people, but it's nice to have a platform where um, you can do the things that help man in the natural sense and then also share and break bread on a spiritual level. But I have found in my walk in life that there are men of different faiths, women of different faiths, and you can still commune with them. But when it comes to where the rubber meets the road, you choose to serve God because you want to make a transition to the next life to where you're blameless and to where you feel like what you did on earth was what your mission was and that God has blessed and approved it. So it's a very complex world. It's a world that has many problems, and we don't have one solution for all the problems. We have to bring what we have. It's a come as you are war. We're in a war of the mind. It's a come as you are war. What do you bring? What are you coming with? What do you have? I heard one preacher say something that startled me. He's a Black African preacher, well known on the media, social media, and he made a statement, "Who is my brother?" And he said, "My brother is he that doeth the will of God." And he didn't care whether you were Black, African, European, Hispanic. You weren't his brother unless you were doing the will of God. And I thought about that divide that he made, and he's saying that there's just right and there's just wrong, basically, and that doesn't matter whether you are African or that you're European. Now, me, yes, I feel that there's right and wrong, and I also feel there's another divide there that it may make a difference whether you're um, African, Black African, or European, depending on what we're aiming for and what we're trying to do. Because if we're all sharing the scriptures and trying to get into the kingdom of heaven, or we're trying to make it in the life that is to come, then it is whosoever will, whosoever doeth the will of my Father. Those are my brothers in that stead. But I'm also a male that decided to be a man, and I'm an African, a Black African, in my struggle. and my crisis and my identity is different than my European counterpart. And my fight is not necessarily his fight, no more than his fight is necessarily mine. And we're speaking mainly on a collective level of what is going on with people who look like me, not necessarily with people who look like them. They have their battle and we have our battle. But my brother is also the brother in the struggle. My brother is the brother, is he that doeth the will of God. But my brother is my brother is also in the struggle. I understand that there's do's and don'ts in the spiritual life. And there's do's and don'ts in the natural life. One great man named Dr. King made a statement that as much as we have a legal and a moral obligation to do what is right in the land and do what is right in morality, we have just as much as a moral obligation to disobey what is not right, what is immoral. The God of history, the same God yesterday, today, and forever, the same God that sent Christ into the world to redeem and reconcile man back to himself by the shedding of blood, that same God is the one that rained down judgment against evildoers. That same God now has a type of love that says whosoever will come, but he has the type of love that says he wants you to change and get rid of those things that weigh you down, those heavy burdens, those things of lust and things that we do that will destroy us as a people in our spiritual walk. We want to be able to combat those evils as well as combat the evils of oppression that afflict our people, social injustice that afflict our people. So we have a couple of battles on several fronts. Just because we convert to being a child of God and convert to being in the church doesn't mean that I cease to exist as a Black man and my troubles cease to exist as a Black African struggling for liberation. So in a sense, I've become a soldier for God, but I'm also be a soldier for my people. I'm not one-dimensional, that once I receive God, everything else doesn't matter. You hear me say, Brother Soldier 4D. You say, Brother Jamal, what does a 4D stand for? Well, it certainly doesn't. We're living in a three-dimensional life where we see things from different angles. We see things visually, and we understand things from different angles. Three-dimensional life. One dimension, if you put a little square on a piece of paper, that looks like a square, but if you put a cube on a piece of paper, that's three-dimensional. What is the 4D? 4D is four-dimensional. What could that be? It's not bipolar and any kind of manic depressing illness that I have where I'm caught up to some realms of psychosis. And no. 4D is there to attract the attention of my mathematicians and the architects and all the people who are scholars. It's to attract their attention, but it's also to send a message that even though there's history out there that tells us about the past, that helps us solve our problems in the present, and helps us try to figure out where we're going because we know where we came from for the future. There's that part where when you are connected to the Spirit of God, God talks to us. God shows us things through his word, through the recordings of the word, of the scriptures. He shows us things in our spirit, impeding dangers that are lie ahead or blessings. These are things that are not confined to the time, the clock. These are things that surpass time. There has been a time that I have seen something happen 6 months down the road that caused me to make certain decisions in the present day so that I could prepare for what I was shown 6 months down the road. It has nothing to do with history. So The Lord showed me something in my spirit, and I see it 6 months down the road, and I prepare for it. And when it comes, I already saw it coming. Now, I'm not doing this to make myself on any pedestal. I am, it says, let he who is great among you become the servant. Now, I was looking at my time here. The servant, to be a servant is to have humility, to understand that you are no greater than the brother next to you. The things that the Lord shares to you are things to help you walk more correct with Him and to cause you to help your brother in the error of his way get closer to that God. I'm not here to take anybody away from any belief in your belief with Christ. I'm here to encourage you to keep walking that way. I just here to show a more excellent way, if I can do that. I have many experiences that have caused me not to leave God. There's a couple of trials and things I've gone through that I could have just walked away from God. There's one time I was discouraged, but it's something about those dreams or the visions, the things that He shared with me that make me stay today. And here I am sitting on all this knowledge and I'm not giving it back to my brothers. I have to come give it back to you. That's why I said, let's break bread. So if you're Muslim and anything like that, you're welcome. If you're European, you're welcome. You know, if you're a brother that wants to do good and do right, join us. But if you're one of those that are with the system that's trying to crush Africans and Black Africans, you're an enemy. If you are a Black African who works in cahoots with wolves to undermine your own people, you're an enemy. So who is my enemy? He that does not the will of God. Now, the will of God is not confined to the four walls of the church only. You could do the will of God right out here in this community. Many of these prophets in the Old Testament were sent out into the community to speak. They weren't just in the synagogue. So I'm not one of those traditional type of men that sit in behind pulpit. Right now I'm not, but that doesn't mean I can't break truth with you. So who is my brother? The brothers in the struggle. Who is my brothers? He that doeth the will of God. Even my brothers in the struggle who know not God. Just the fact that they're trying to help people in the error of their way and help them out of oppression, they're doing the will of God right there. It may not be to the perfection that God wants, but that. But I want to fast forward and say something before my time is up. When I went into psychology and I majored in the undergrad and the graduate levels of psychology, one thing I was understood in that profession when I did therapy and counseling for little ones and with their parents, one thing I learned is we're to teach them so that they can receive a kind of healing in their emotions and their mind, not to aid and abet them in their psychosis and to promote it, but to extinguish it from them. So when I see little boy saying he's a girl or little girl saying she's a boy, I don't look at that and identify with that. If I do identify, is to turn around and tell them who they really are. So I don't do well in that type of profession, lying to children and lying to people about their sexual identity. These are things that are attacks from the enemy. And so that's where I stand on that. And if you really love a person, you're going to tell them the error of their way. For the people who say that they love these people and they're in this kind of field and you're helping encourage that identity crisis in them, you're going to stand before the Creator. You're not right. You're a wolf. So in saying all of that, I'm saying that quickly that this platform is about the love of a fellow man through truth and upholding what is moral. You have an obligation to disobey what is not right, just as much as you have an obligation to obey what is right. So this side of Christianity that I told you we don't hear about. So let's soldier on, let's move forward. I'm just rapping on the reel with you. I kind of letting you building a little rapport with you, and I thought I should put this channel out here just for that, and we'll get back to our lessons. Anyway, man, know thyself, according to Imhotep. Self knowledge, self love is our only way out. And of course, giving allegiance to God Almighty. Peace and blessing.